Hi, here we go. Now we're live. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Ashley Carr. I am the priest at Holy Comforter Episcopal Church right here in Atlanta, Georgia. And I am also hosting this beloved conversation series and video series that we're rolling out in the diocese. And the point of this series is to highlight the concept of belovedness and how that is in action in and around the Diocese of Atlanta. And it was an absolute no-brainer that Shereetha Jackson should be our very first I don't know, what are we going to call you? Like the spotlight story. And we are delighted to have you here. And I hope y'all saw the video. If you didn't, it's all over the socials and the YouTube page and all that stuff. But we're going to sort of unpack what Shereetha talked about in that video, and we're going to dig a little deeper and get to know her in the next maybe 12 or 15 minutes or so. So Shereetha, Director of Community Engagement at Church of the Common Ground, tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us what the world needs to know about you.
Oh my goodness. First and foremost, thank you for inviting me into this space and inviting me to participate in this series. As you just shared, I am the Director of Community Engagement at Church of the Common Ground, which means that I wear many hats, but I serve some pretty amazing people here in the city of Atlanta. And we create spiritual community for those who are experiencing homelessness in Atlanta. And let me tell you, when the word beloved comes up, that's exactly what I think about our community members here at Church of the Common Ground. So thank you for the invitation, Ashley.
Gosh, thank you. Thank you so much for being with us. So let's dive right in. First question, heavy hitter.
Okay.
Talk to us about your understanding of what it is to be beloved in and around this world. What is beloved to Shereetha?
That's it. Yeah, beloved is really and truly right now, presently, I define beloved with the community members that I see day to day at Church of the Common Ground, and sitting and being in that space, learning names and drinking coffee. I stake my reputation on coffee in this city. Jokingly, again, like I said, I wear many hats, and so street barista is one of those, and I'm very proud of it. And so really and truly, when I sit down and I have coffee with someone and they tell me how good it is, and we make a holy roller, which, by the way, if you are ever in downtown Atlanta, come in and connect with us, Ashley, and I will make you a holy roller myself if you're into it.
I'm there.
And it's in that conversation, just kind of bridging the gap with someone who slept outside last night, and for them to make space and have a conversation and share their story and laugh, or maybe even shed a tear, but to trust me enough to have that moment, that's beloved to me. So
I love that. It sounds like, creating space for those beloved moments to happen with beloved people, right? I mean, and especially particularly in your context, with people who are often overlooked and disregarded, and if they are seen, they're kicked out of wherever they are. So it's incredibly important to do that work in that context.
Yes.
So you talked a little bit in the video about how you kind of came to the Episcopal Church. You're drawn to the Episcopal Church because of for a lot of reasons, I'm sure, but one of the reasons is because of the work that Dr. Catherine Meeks is doing around having uncomfortable conversations about race. And I'm curious about if you can sort of unpack that a little bit and talk to us about maybe some concrete examples of times when you've seen that happen in the Episcopal Church, for better or worse, I guess.
Yeah, well, so I came to the Episcopal Church through the Episcopal Service Corps program, and I'm going to be honest with you, I didn't know exactly what I was getting myself into. First and foremost, when I had that realization that we take communion every time. Like, this isn't just a one-off. Like, this is every single Every single time there's a sacrament, first of all, what is a sacrament, right? And so deep dive, did a year of discernment with the Episcopal Service Corps with All Saints Atlanta Project. And I ended up sticking around. And part of that looked like connecting with Dr. Meeks.
Mhm.
And at that time, it was the Commission for Dismantling Racism.
Right.
And I ended up participating in an event, just going and participating in a panel, and because I didn't know that existed,
Hmm.
because I had questions and I wondered, and here this majestic, unicorn, Dr. Catherine Meeks, who is just absolutely wonderful and grounded in everything that she does. And I realized that there's a path. There's a different path here, because initially I didn't know if there was a path for me here in the Episcopal Church. And so in getting an invitation to participate on the Commission for Dismantling Racism and being able to do some work there, Dr. Meeks invited myself and two other Episcopal Service Corps members to host a call to action meeting here in Atlanta that brought various faith leaders from different backgrounds and anyone who wanted to make a difference. And in having that and hosting that event, it made space in a way for myself to how to define like what it looks like to be a shade braver, because I had no idea what I was doing, but she gave me a chance. Right? She gave me a chance.
Yeah.
And and hosting that workshop and just continuing that work, and it set me on this path of seeing people where they are and having these really tough conversations with folks at a table that don't necessarily look like me, and being open to those conversations and doing it over and over again, but not in a way that that is to my detriment, because usually the folks who come into those spaces are people who want to learn, who want to have a conversation. And that experience has just it's the foundation of the work that I'm doing today.
That it sounds like, finally you see someone in the church who's like walking the walk, not just talking the talk, right? And how important is that? Because we all just get so exhausted by all of the hot air, right? And it's so cool, this world that Dr. Meeks has made and invites people into to say, what do you want to do and how do you want to do it? And let's do it, right? And that's, it's so amazing to me to watch. I'm so glad that you found that. I love the shade braver. That's true for all of us, right? Can you talk about a time when you noticed yourself becoming a shade braver? I know that's a big question. That's a vulnerable question. You're also allowed to pass.
Well, that's what we're here for, to be a shade braver. And again, that's not my language. This is something that I learned with my work with the Center for Racial Healing. And I also just want to take a moment and highlight that representation matters. And so me being able to see myself, and I hope that in this space that someone can connect with it as well, that having someone that looks like you and may have some shared experiences, it really does matter. And it's allowed me to connect with the Episcopal Church in a different way. But moments of being a shade braver, every day that I show up at Common Ground, because I used to do youth ministry here in the diocese with Church of the Epiphany, and for nearly 4 years. And I've had the question asked, wait, working with Church of the Common Ground has to be wildly different from doing youth ministry. And I'm like, are you kidding me? Like, when you do youth ministry, you have no idea who's coming through the door. Someone's hit a growth spurt, what kind of day they've had. It's a wild card, right?
Yeah, yes.
And I take that same, if anything, that work has prepared me to just go into Common Ground with that same just wonder of what are we going to get today?
Yes.
And I never know And that's it. It's exciting, and also, like I said, I have to be a shade braver each time, because the folks that spend time with in community are very vulnerable,
Mm,
and to be able to hold that
yeah.
and have a moment of not just a spiritual connection and holding space with them, but you have to be present, and
Yeah.
none of what you have going on matters in that moment. You have to make sure that they are seen. And so I
Right.
have to forget about what Shereetha
Mm, mm,
Shereetha's fears are,
right.
and focus on how to be there and be help spread that and share that good news and be a representation of that. So that's my shade braver each day.
I love that. I love that. Our behind the scenes producer Easton is curious if we've actually mentioned what Church of the Common Ground is. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
I talked a little. I'm
Yeah.
happy to.
If
Like
you could say a little bit more.
we a little bit, absolutely. Church of the Common Ground is a spiritual community for those who live on the streets of Atlanta. And we serve an amazing group of folks in downtown Atlanta. We have Sunday worship each Sunday. Here's our motto: if you get anything from this space, that we go rain, shine, sleet, or snow, but we don't do tornadoes. Okay. And
Good.
I
Smart.
that's I suggest that you don't either. But our folks know, they look for us. I don't know if you guys can catch it, but if you see this
Mhm.
this beautiful cross, this is a representation of our community. Our community members typically wear this because when we are not there, and when I say we, I refer to our staff and our amazing team of folks. Our vicar is Reverend Kim Jackson, and we have Deacon David Dosselinton on our team as well. But when we are not physically there, they have this
Mhm.
cross as a representation of our community, and they know how to spot others
Right.
who follow that same path.
That's awesome. Cool. Thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll help folks who are not familiar. Um, you talked in the video about you said Jesus is every person. And you talked about seeing Jesus in eyes and names and tears and silence. And I wonder if that, I mean, I'm like saying it almost makes me teary because it's so right. It's so true. And I wonder, in your experience, how intentional do you have to be about looking for Jesus in people, or are you not intentional at all and it just slaps you across the face when you least expect it? Or is it both?
It's both and.
Yeah.
Uh, I am, I am slapped by the Holy Spirit. We are in Pentecost, aren't we?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I used to, before I found my path, and I'm still figuring out what that path looks like, right? We just
Sure.
kind of, show up and try to be spirit led as much as possible. But more and more, as I feel that I have taken time to discern what my calling is and looking into vocation, those Jesus moments just happen
Mhm.
naturally.
Mhm.
Before, I feel like I had to search for it because I was searching,
Yeah.
and things didn't seem as clear. And so, with
Mhm.
serving as the director of community engagement and just how I lead my day to day, those Jesus moments, those, what does Oprah call it? Aha.
Yes. Right.
Sometimes for me, it's oh my, but they happen intentionally and just naturally. And I'm grateful every single time. I don't take it for granted at all.
That's awesome. I love that. I think I always have moments where I'm like staring in someone's eyes and I'm like, I need to see Jesus right now, and and it doesn't come, but then like when I least expect it, it's like, oh, well, I'll be darned. There you are. Like,
It's tough. I know we have to honor time, but I just want to name that the workshop that I mentioned, that first shot of organizing and getting that community development, community engagement, it fell right during, I think, a couple of days after, the same week of the 2016 presidential election. And so it was just a lot of contention in
Yeah.
the community as a
Wow.
whole.
Yeah.
And that event went from, prior to the election, we had a pretty solid number of folks, I think about 60. And before we knew it, it was up to like 150 people.
Wow.
And plus, I was
Wow.
trying to figure out,
Yeah.
okay, logistics, because people felt called, they felt pulled to that space. And so
Mhm.
I know a little bit about having to search, because in
Yeah.
those moments we didn't know what we were getting. You just had to figure out, when you're navigating contention as a whole, like, where do I see God?
Right.
Right? How can I be God-like?
Yeah. I love the way that you seem to be, approaching this work, and I know we need to close, and I want to give you an opportunity to say sort of one last thing, and the sort of last piece in the video that really hooked me was your use of the word strive. And that's in our baptismal covenant, and it's such a dynamic word, and I wonder if you can just talk about that word and how that fits into the work that you do, and then we'll close out.
Sure thing. Listen, what we operate on at Common Ground, in a space in which life hits you hard, right, is that God honors our striving.
Mm.
That's it. And I'm very transparent. On my way into the office some days, or on my way to Woodruff, I have to strive quite a bit when I'm in traffic. It's Atlanta. So God honors our striving, but
Yeah.
I like to add to that, a personal motto of mine is to add on that, and to look at thriving as
Mm.
well. Usually we focus on not just striving, but surviving as like
Yeah.
our default. We got to survive. And so I encourage folks to lean into um, thriving
Mm.
more so, because it it changes your perspective on how to address the day. Because when you're thinking about just surviving, it's bare minimum. But I believe that we are in a space where we are meant to thrive. And so I send that same energy into our community members. I send it to you, Ashley. I
Yes.
send it to everyone that's connecting with this piece of just put more love into the world, put more peace,
Yeah.
and also remember to thrive.
Yes. Oh, I love that. What a perfect way to end this conversation. Thrive, thrive, thrive. I think that's awesome. Shereetha, thank you so much for giving us your very valuable time, making the video, and being here tonight. We are so, so, so grateful for your story. And y'all go see the Jacksons down at Church of the Common Ground, and all the good people down there. It is an absolutely life altering experience to go and worship in that community. I can tell you from personal experience. So go and do that. Encounter the living God in a different way. Strive and thrive however you can. Y'all, thank you so much. We'll see you next time. Shereetha, thank you. Thank you.